Okay.
Hoping that worked.
Got it? I'm glad to have you here. This is a really humongous group. Woo! And then, so the first thing I want you to get out is your map. Okay? We are going to do probably down there with the 10 most boring stories or scriptures in the Bible. We are going to tackle one of the 10 most boring scriptures in the Bible. Yes. So I'm going to show you how exciting God's Word is. I want you to see that even the most boring stories, it can be really exciting. They have jewels in them. So get your map out because you're going to need your map. You're going to be working very hard. Now, for those of you who can see this map, you better thank God that I figured out a way to get the map and send it to you. Because this is that map in Barbara Arnold's way of doing things. It almost looks like a cow had a,
One other.
Yes. Go ahead, Sandy.
Do you have another map?
I certainly do. For those of you who don't have the map at home, several of you don't have it. We will pass them down. Just pass them down. For those of you who don't have one at home, quickly, make something like this without all the words on it. Just a big, kind of circle and then a cow's udder down below. Got it? Because you're going to be using this. Okay? Got it? Okay, now on that map, you're going to put on the top right side, east. On that map, top right side, just put the word east someplace in the gray. Not on the map, just east. And on the left side, somewhere off on the left side, put west. This is important. I'm telling you, we're going to have a good time. Okay. So, you got it? Okay. Now, the 2 pages that have 3 columns each. These, I don't know if anybody got to start reading them, put them away and said, this is too boring. Guess what? I spent hours looking this over, rereading, because it wasn't boring. It was so exciting. So, do you have it where it's the 2 columns, 2 pages? Okay. This is from Nehemiah 3. It's not divided up in your Bibles like I have. Might have indentation for paragraphs. But it's going to take us around our map from the northeast, where the sheep gate is. Do you see the sheep gate? It's right up northeast really. From the sheep gate around counterclockwise, so to the left, toward the west, around, down toward the south, and then you're going to go up, and you're going to end up at the sheep gate again. That is Nehemiah 3. He's going to tell you about how they rebuilt Jerusalem's walls after they returned from the captivity. Let me give you a short synopsis of the captivity. You remember, there was a divided kingdom after Saul, David, Solomon. The kingdom divided like that. So we have a northern kingdom and a southern kingdom, right? Okay. Well, after a few years, the northern kingdom went off into captivity. Let's do it this way. Captivity over the Fertile Crescent up to Assyria. So they went up to Assyria. Years pass, and God warns the southern kingdom that if they go into idolatry like the northern kingdom he's going to send them into captivity too. They don't believe him. it happened to them, not to us. You ever had that happen in your younger years? Yeah, in your younger years. Never anymore. But captivity. So the southern kingdom, the Babylonians come from over the Fertile Crescent, from the east. And they come and take the children of Israel, including Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, Ezekiel. Jeremiah, it never goes into that kind of captivity. He's kidnapped and taken to Egypt. But the rest of them go into captivity over the Fertile Crescent. They're going east. That is always bad. Going east is always bad. Karen has heard this since the first day she came into my class years ago. 12 years ago? Something like that.
I'm not that old, I don't know.
We've been talking about going east is not good. That's the place of punishment. That's not a good place. That's Adam and Eve went east. Cain went east. The people who set up the Tower of Babel had gone east. Lot went east instead of north or south. When Abraham said, go to the north or go to the south, he chooses east. Not a good thing. And that's because that's where captivity is. And so the children of Israel, both northern kingdom go east to Assyria, the southern kingdom goes east to to Babylon. Not a good place. And so they are there for 70 years. During that 70 years, Lamentations is written, Ezekiel is written, Daniel is written. All those good books have been written, and then the 70 years are done. In fact, Daniel tells us, I calculated the time that Jeremiah said, and Jeremiah said it was only going to be 70 years, and then we go back, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 68, 69, 70, this is it, Lord, you're going to take us back, aren't you? Yes, and he does. Under Cyrus, he lets them return to the land. And that's where first Zerubbabel brings a group back, and you would think all of them would have gone back, but they don't. They leave a lot behind. And then Ezra is called by the Lord to take a group back, and he rebuilds the temple. Yes, DB.
All right, the 70 years, I can't remember the significance of the 70. Why was it 70?
70? Right now, I can't remember. Oh, there was a significance. There were several. But it had to do with the years that they didn't let the land lay fallow.
Right.
That's right. Yes, went out of my brain, but there it is, 70. So it was 70 years calculated by God's calculator, and he said 70 years captivity because that was a Sabbath, and breaking the Sabbath meant death. So, seventh year, the land was to lay fallow. They were to allow people to go free. They just all the wonderful things that should have been in the Sabbath, and they don't do it. So, 70 years. Ezra comes back after Zerubbabel, and Ezra helps to build the temple. And then after that comes the Esther story. I know you think it's the Nehemiah story, and Nehemiah comes next in your Bible. But Esther's story comes next. She's one of those who don't return to the land. She stays in Persia. So right off the bat, check mark. She's not as godly as we might at first think. But we're not going to even go there right now, because the next thing that happens is Nehemiah comes and rebuilds the temple. That is what Nehemiah 3 is all about. It's about rebuilding the walls and all the gates. So you're going to be reading through, and here are two things I want you to look for and do as you're going around. We're going around it'll start at the sheep gate. So I want you to kind of put a color or circle at the sheep gate, and the sheep gate on your page. So you got your map, you got your page. The first thing listed is the sheep gate. That's going to be fixed up. So put the same color on both, or just circle both. If you don't have your twistables, which I recommend for you to have, you can just circle so that you have it. So I want you to find it on the map. When it's mentioned on your paper, I want you to find it on the map. This is really, really important. You're going to go counterclockwise around the map, around the city. So the sheep gate, the next thing that comes up is the fish gate. Can you see that? You're going to mark your map and your paper. Just put a circle around fish gate on both the paper and so you got that?
Yeah.
I don't want you to, okay, you're going to start from the beginning though after I am done. Okay? Okay, I'm giving you instructions. The second thing I want you to do is on your paper, whenever it mentions Levites or priests, do that in a different color or just underline it or put a square around it so it looks different from the gates. Okay? So when you have priests or Levites, now I have to tell you, because some of you won't realize this, that temple servants are always Levites. So when they're mentioned, just know they're Levites. So you're going to go around on your paper. Now you can do this together, 2 by 2, if you want to. If you feel you need help with each other, that would be a fun thing. Or you can do it yourself. I'm going to just observe, and you don't try to speed. Some of you are already working on it. Yeah, the Lone Ranger's in my group. Poor Bob, he's sitting there. Go ahead, DB. What was your of the map? I certainly.
Of
The other papers, yes, somebody gave me extra, so here they are. Here you go.
Thank you.
Okay, so go to it. You're going to go around, and something amazing is going to occur. Oh, one more thing. I'm sorry. I want you to circle. Okay, you've got circles. Those of you who do not have a colored pencil, you circle the gates, the names for the gates. You're putting a square around priests or Levites. And the third thing, underline bolts and bars. So put that down, bolts and bars. Whenever it says bolts and bars, underline it. Can you do that for me? Okay, 3 things here to remember, right? Gates, priests or Levites, bolts and bars. This is going to take a little bit of time. So those of you who are at home, you have plenty of time to do this. So go to it. If you have any problems, please raise your hand. I will come to you. Those of you at home, come next time. No, some of you are in Maine.
There's nothing for beams though, right?
Who?
Beams.
Bolts and bars. That's all. Bolts and bars. Gates, the names of the gates. Make note of it on your map. Make note of it on your papers, your columns. Priests or Levites, make note of that. And then bolts and bars. Any other questions? Maybe people in my audience have the same question you have. We're not circling beams. Bolts and bars. I recommend that you get those fun colored pencils, twistables. And it looks like this. Thank God it doesn't look like this. But if you didn't get this, you can do this. And see how I have all the gates written around it. Just take a picture that looks like a cow's udder. Yeah. To read most boring parts of Scripture. And I'm trying to show you that every part of Scripture is packed full of gems.
A couple questions.
Is that time for you?
Oh, Eastgate?
Refuse.
Oh, refuse.
Oh,
It's on, it would be done.
Okay,
That's the same thing.
Yes.
how about, I have another one on, how about inspection gate?
Okay, that would be on your map, it says master gate. It should not have said master, it should have said muster or inspection gate. The people who did the map did it wrong. I don't think it's master gate.
No.
It's muster or inspection gate. It's inspection gate in my, in the New American Standard Version. That's what you've got. Okay. So when you get to master gate, it's not master gate, it's muster or inspection gate.
The refuse gate, is that the dung gate?
Yes. Refuse gate is dung gate.
Hey, don't do that in black.
This This would have been south of David City. The city of David would have been in that, this would have been the city of David. I hate the fact that I drew it so ugly because that was a major part of the city. The part where there's the temple would have been the top of the mountain and David City would have gone up. Okay, who had a question? The refuse, in
Yeah, it
case,
was me.
the refuse gate would have been the dung gate.
Yeah.
And that's where they would have taken the dung outside the city. Go ahead.
You have the water gate and the horse gate.
Yes.
Well, I had to write it.
Okay.
And now that pencils there.
Oh, golly, I have another one. You should
It's
have
all
said.
right, I'm almost done.
Oh, and, yeah, but you probably would like to have a nice clean sheet. And I have them. Plenty.
Okay, where am I? The Benton gate.
Is that yours in black?
Yeah.
I looked at hers.
Yeah, mine doesn't have, I was trying to.
Would you like to have another one? Are you okay with that? I have another one.
Okay.
Might make it easier to see.
I don't know why it came out black. I don't know.
Oh, you never know. These
I was
computers
using
have
a
a brain
computer
of
on
their
the
own.
library.
Yeah, brain of their own.
We started off with, I had printed out.
Once you get done, you have to go back
Anyway, that was the-
and see what's happening. Because there's something very important that is happening.
Now she's got all these others.
You might
She didn't
even
say
take
that. Oh, I
note
did that. That's why.
of where the priests and the Levites are situated on that map. So I know you're underlining it on your paper, but you might wanna kind of see
Where are you?
approximately
Miranda.
where they are situated.
Last one I found was the county gate.
Yeah, me too. So I guess go to the
So-
other page.
Those of you who are
Oh,
at
dear.
home, you're gonna kind of be watching for where the priests and Levites are living, dwelling. This is an important aspect that you wouldn't pick up if you were reading the Bible in a year, because you'd be going so fast and get glazed eyes on Nehemiah 3. We slowed it down.
What did you say the refuse gate was?
Dung
gate.
gate.
Okay, now the water gate.
And that's it.
Watergate, that's familiar.
Yeah. And he particularly mentions that it's east. Very telling.
Yeah. Oh, I was just thinking of the Watergate and our history.
Oh,
My mind goes weird places.
What's the inspection gate?
that's it says master on your map. It should have been muster or inspection gate.
Muster the troops. Get the
Yes,
troops in.
kind of. This might have been where the troops went in and out. Perhaps.
So the Watergate was on the east.
Yes, it
To the
tells you,
east.
particularly, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It wants you to get something.
Now, the Tower of 100 is mentioned in.
Yes, but it's not a gate, so I want you to take note of it because it's there, but you don't have to, if you want to use another color for 100, and the Tower of Hananel is another one that's important. You know, you're going to be reading through this. In the 100th time, you would start seeing, ooh, there's something going on here, especially if you have a map. You start seeing it better. And that's why I sent the map. It will all fall together. I promise.
Eastgate. I'm running out of colors.
Now, if you know that other part, that long, thing, that if you want to put in City of David, you can. That whole section was called at one time the City of David. Because they're going to mention his tomb, they're going to mention the City of David. So if you want to know where that is, that's right down there on that long, it's called a finger pointing downward. That sounds better, doesn't it? Finger pointing downward.
There's
Mustard.
Mustergate. It's saying Master, but it's
I
Muster.
like it. I'll see it on the paper.
Oh. No, Mustergate is Mustergate.
I think
Mustard
the
gate
finger,
isn't
I
on
think she
here.
means this.
Yeah.
They stopped using nuts and bolts. Or bolts and bars.
Bolts.
Any other question? They're a group of people. But they were kind of big words and they're not happy with me.
What's she doing?
Inspection must be the mustard.
Where'd you find that one?
Yes.
So we're reading this and then.
And I have to find another color. Oh.
Take note of where the priests are. You might want to draw a line from where they start to where they end. Priests or Levites, approximately where they're situated.
Inspection 8.
Sorry, the sheet 8 and then. I don't know if that's true, but. As you're reading this, when you see the word, say something related to the west side.
The Levites.
And then you put a square around it. Like up here. Yeah.
did this before.
Long ago, yes, but we didn't have a map like this.
No, we didn't.
This is
Yes.
right.
And I'm definitely going to tie this into Luke. That's
Did
what.
we do that?
Do you believe that? By the way, guys, this is going to play a major factor in Luke's gospel. Do you hear that? This does have to do with Luke. And you're saying to me, couldn't. Couldn't. It is. Remember, we looked at Luke from the eyes of Abraham in Genesis. We looked at Luke from the eyes of Daniel in the book of Daniel. We looked at Luke from the eyes of David. And this week we're going to look at Luke from the eyes of Ezekiel and Nehemiah. I want you to do it on your own so that you get the picture.
Okay, let me double checking with you.
Start looking at your map if you get finished. And if you're finished, it wouldn't hurt you to read over again and get more stuff.
No, I didn't.
There's so much more you could put on your map
I didn't.
besides what I've asked you to do.
I didn't mark the towers. Are we supposed to mark them?
Not particularly, but you might want to mark. You might want to mark the towers if they're set.
Projecting tower, projecting tower.
Well, where's
You know what?
this
Here's
at?
another thing. When you heard the bolts and bars, could you put an X on your map at the gate where it says bolts and bars so that you can see something? Put an X at the gate.
The angle on the tower, are they on here?
What?
It's,
The angle. Not everything is on your map.
Okay.
It tried to do a lot, but not everything.
It's just right in. You mean right bolts and bars in?
She said put an X.
No, put an X.
Put an X next to the gate where the bolts and bars are.
Oh. That finger part that points down is the city of David. So you might want to mark that kind of sideways if you want. City of David. Because that's where his tomb's going to be. And whenever you see bolts and bars, put an X on your map on that gate.
That happened.
Shirley?
Ah,
Okay, show me.
Well,
Here's all your plots.
Yeah.
And you were to kind of like, good, see, you did it. You got it. And you got bolts and bars on the okay. Bolts and bars on the this one, okay. Okay, yes. Next one. Bolts and bars. Yes. Right there. Okay, that's good. Now, did you mark whenever you saw any priests? Temple servants also. Yes. Remember, temple servants go along with Levites and priests. Some of you are taking note. Now see, you wouldn't have known it unless you had the map in front of you. The Israelites would have had their map in their brain. they would have known exactly what was happening with this chapter.
There's no,
They would have been jumping up and down.
so these gates are all barred. These aren't.
That's what I want you to see. That's what I want you to see. You are starting to take note of some things. I know, especially those bolts and bars, but also you need to take note of the priests or Levites, where they are living. I want you to take note of where they are living.
This is bolts and bars, this is priest.
Away from the bolts and bars. That's interesting.
Well, it looks like the fountain gate has both.
Except,
Now, you don't see, you don't see this happening until,
After, okay.
yes, so it's kind of like, after you move past the gate, you start seeing. And it's very
Hmm.
You didn't mark them up, did you?
Is it
Okay.
working?
how are you doing?
I put my colors on my map.
Anybody not finished at least okay, Kathy.
I finished what?
I was just saying.
I'm on the second page.
I'm sorry.
Right.
That's okay,
If you're
no
not
problem.
finished,
Okay, please.
just let me know that you're not finished, and I'll give you
The sheet.
a few more minutes.
What should I put for priests? I'll find the symbol.
Well, no,
I put L
that's
for
not
the
gonna play an
Levites.
important factor, so. Yes, you're looking at angles, there's
I put a
angles in
circle
the,
on
there are
I
angles.
just circled priests
Yeah,
or,
yeah, that's what I did.
or the Levites down there, honey.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Oh, man.
you have,
My neck.
okay, you have.
Right.
I get itchy on my neck, and I asked the dermatologist about it, and he said, "You have arthritis?" I said, "Yeah." And he said it affects your nerve
Nerves.
endings, so
Yeah.
it makes you itch.
It says master key. It should be
Oh, learned something new today.
Okay. Now, if I only could remember a real map, who's here and who's here.
Well, general idea. Okay, so you're looking, those of you who are at home, you are looking for the gates. You're finding them on the map. If the gates say that there are bolts and bars, put an X at that gate on the map. If the gate is followed by priests or Levites, and the Levites include the temple servants because only the Levites could work with the temple. Put them in some way, shape, or form. Put it, a heart if you want to, or a circle, or whatever, a star. That the priests are there. So. Now, I really do wish I had a big, but I don't have a big map here. We'll work. Okay. Who needs more time? Kathy, go ahead.
Am I the only one?
Or keep going. I'm going to, people at home probably have, and these people can go back and start looking again.
I gotta do
Yes,
the F for
Catherine.
Was there more than one high priest?
No, well, it looks like that, doesn't it? We're going to talk about that. There's not more than one high priest.
Looks like he's got a house down the bottom.
I know, he does. It does look like he has a house. He does. He has a house down south.
Okay, summer home.
Nope, he's not living on the northeast part. Look what it says. Look what it says.
It says, yes.
It doesn't have.
That he's working on,
Yeah.
not living there. Okay, guys. Got it? Okay, let's come together and start looking at it because some of you are seeing some things that I want you to see. You saw that I gave you east is on your right, west is on your left of this map, right? Okay, so where are the bolts and bars located?
On the west.
On the west side, yeah. So we have to ask ourselves, why does it stop? Remember what I've taught you. If there's a list given, and there's a list given, 10 gates, what's at each gate, and something's added or something is missing, you have to ask yourself why. And so we have something missing. On what side are the bolts and bars missing?
On the east.
On the east side, primarily on the east side. The fountain gate is the last gate, right? The fish gate at the top left, the northwestern side, that is where the bolts and bars begin, isn't it? And it goes right down to the fifth gate, which is the fountain gate. Okay. Now, this was a harder one. I wanted you to figure out priests and Levites. Where are the priests and Levites situated? On the east, where there are no bolts and bars. Oh my goodness, so we have to ask ourselves, okay, we got two things. That one is something missing, bolts and bars on the east. One is something included on the east, and that's the on the east, priests and Levites, right? And some. So on the east side, something's going on, isn't there? And he doesn't tell you. Do you know why? Because he knew that you turned off CSI and CIS, and that you understood from Scripture why the east side of Jerusalem was important. In fact, they got their information from somebody named Ezekiel. Do you remember when Ezekiel occurred? During what time? What time period? You had Ezekiel's limo, remember? You put it down? Who said it? During the 70 years of captivity. So when he wrote this, he was really writing about the God who was there. Okay, let's see what were the other things that I wanted you to, that you started noticing? Was there anything else? Anybody have a question or anything that you noticed? Go ahead.
They started at the sheep gate. They went west.
Yes.
And they went
South.
south, and then they went north. They never went west. It went this way, and this way.
Right. So they were doing kind of like a circle.
Yeah.
And they were, but counterclockwise.
Yes.
Because they wanted to capture the West. Now, go ahead.
I was just saying, it seems like the west side, they were doing the right thing. I'm not sure the reason for it, but they were doing what they were supposed to be doing on the west side, and they stopped when they got to the east side. There must be a significance to that fact that
Bingo. There is significance about the fact that they were doing on the west side what they were supposed to, nuts and bolts and bars, in order to keep the city secure. Right? That's the bolts and bars. But they stop on the east side. And you're right. There's a significant reason. I don't want that reason quite yet. But go ahead, Fed.
I was going to guess.
Just give me a couple more. I want people to kind of agonize for a while. Go ahead, Kathleen.
I don't know if I read this right or not, but it seems like the army and the horses and the things were all on the east side.
Did you notice that? That's a good thing to notice. Right.
Fortified
It's fortified.
The army is on the east
Well,
side.
that might be the reason, but there are armies right there on the east side. Excellent. Why might that? Look at your map and look where they're really kind of Mustard Gate, Horse Gate. What part of the city are they really protecting then?
Around the temple.
Around the temple area. And where is the temple in line of this? It's up there, and the entrance is from the east. East, right? Okay, so all that's going to play into it.
Well,
Yes,
who
go
was
ahead, just a minute, go ahead.
They also have more towers on the east.
More towers, great for you. And then there's the tower, I want you to look at the top. The Tower of Hananel and the Tower of the 100. You read that first part? Let's look at who was up there at the first part. So on the first page where it says then Eliashib, you see that? Everybody got it? Then Eliashib, the who? High priest, arose with his brothers the not Levites. Did you notice the most important part of the Levites were the priests? And the most important person of the priests was the
High priest.
and there was only one high priest till you get to Jesus' day, and then things got messed up. But he starts at what gate?
Sheep gate.
Why do you think it's called the sheep gate?
Sacrificial lambs brought through there.
Okay, that is probably where the sacrificial lambs are brought in, because what else is up there? The temple is up there. Now, what does he do at that gate and at the towers that kind of are close by on either side of that gate? Consecrates it. Was anything else consecrated? No. So I want somehow mark consecrated. This is a special section. Why? Because why, Joe? Okay, because the sheep for the sacrifices came in that gate, so it had to be consecrated. This is an important part. When you go to the descriptions in the Old Testament of the future Jerusalem, the name Hananel is mentioned because this is so important. It's going to even be in part of the future eschatological temple. Hananel, sheep gate. In fact, we have an inclusio around this section. What was the inclusio around the whole chapter 3? What did it start and end with?
Sheep gate.
Sheep gate. Bingo. Starts and ends with the sheep gate. It's consecrated. Who consecrates it?
Priest.
The high priest and the priest. This is an important place, isn't it? It's extremely important. Plus, not only the sheep gate, but the 2 towers on either side are consecrated. And then they go off, and after this starts the bars and bolts. But it stops at the fountain gate at the bottom, doesn't it? And from then on, after the fountain gate is taken care of by a group of men, all of a sudden, did you notice you saw priests? That's on your second page. Let's go to that. Second page, verse 15. We have the fountain gate. You see that, right? It has bolts and bars. You see that, right? It says even the city of David and the tombs of David are down there because that's part of the city of David. That finger going down, that whole section is the city of David, was known as the city of David. That's where David and his people lived back in David's time, but it's no longer David's time period. This is Nehemiah's time period, hundreds of years later, but he still commemorates that this is the city of David, and things are done. As soon as that's done, in verse 17, all of a sudden the Levites begin. Did you see that in verse 17? After him, the Levites carried out repairs. So now, on the east side, above the fountain gate, where the bolts and bars are, you're going to start with Levites and priests. Now, okay, good. Let me see. Where is the house? There it is, of the high priest. Look at the fountain gate. Below the fountain, or on your paper, go to verse 20. To the doorway of what? The house of Eve. That's Eliashib, the high priest. Okay, so his house is where? On the east, southeast, above the fountain gate. But where's he working?
He's working at the sheep gate.
He's working at the sheep gate. What's he doing at the sheep gate?
Consecrating.
He's building it and he's consecrating it because what's about the sheep gate? Sacrificial. That's where the sacrificial sheep come in. That is the most important part there. And it's still, in Israel's eyes, it's still part of the east because it's on the northeast. So, okay. So we have all and so you see the Levites and the priests all on the east side. You see there's no bolts and bars on the east side. And so now we have to figure out why. Right? And I know some of you got it. But I want you to get it when you read this. So I'm going to pass these down. I want you to pass it down. You may not read it till I say. So turn it over because I know that temptation is going to be great. It's just going to be too much. So immediately turn it over to the other side.
You know, each gate is symbolic of something.
I've seen that.
Oh, we
I've
get into
seen
that?
it. Probably not today.
Okay.
Okay, but I know. Okay, everybody got it?
No.
Okay. Remember, don't look. Some of you are famous for looking. You can't stand it. You start before I'm finished giving instructions. You just go ahead. Oh, no, I knew you weren't. That's, I use old paper, so therefore you're getting old paper.
But
Okay.
it was tempting.
It was so tempting. I know. I'm so sad that it was this tempting. We will. Okay, turn it over. We're going to read it together. And I want you to figure out the 3 most repeated words. In fact, they're repeated 3 to 4 times. So be watching. Then, this is Ezekiel. Remember, he lives during the what? Captivity. Oh, turn your paper over. Thank you. Okay. Ezekiel is about the God who is there. So some of you have been with me when I've taught the story about God's limo. Chapter 1. The children of Israel have been taken captive over to Babylon. They're there. Now, here's what's important to take note of. In that day and age, gods were land bound. Second thing to note, the God who was the weakest lost the battle. Yahweh lost the battle, didn't he? Whoa. Now, that is according to the religions around them. So they're over in Babylon now, thinking, did God lose? Our God, Yahweh, who's the Most High God, did he lose the battle? Whoa, they're shaken up. But not only that, but is our God here? Because gods are land-bound. They're only allowed in certain areas. So Yahweh is the God of Canaan. Is he here at the river Chebar where we are? That's what they're asking. And so chapter 1 gives us the answer because Yahweh, in his limo, described in that chariot, in that chapter, with him in his chariot and the angels, and it looks so fearsome, he travels over the Fertile Crescent and comes to the river Chebar, just where the children of Israel are. So he's the God who is there. And then if you read the last verse in Ezekiel, now the first chapter is all about the God who is there. He comes to them at Chebar. The very last verse in the whole book comes after a description of the new temple that's being built and the new Jerusalem that's being built. And that city, Jerusalem, is really the eschatological Jerusalem, the Jerusalem that will be here when Messiah comes. And he's going to have it built towards certain specifications given in the book of Ezekiel. But he says that city, Jerusalem, will be called Yahweh Shammah, the God who is there. See, so we have the God who is there in Babylon, the God who is there in Israel. This paper, turn over, is a vision Ezekiel has of Yahweh returning to his temple, signifying that the people will return one day. So let me read it. You're looking for the three most repeated words. Then he led me to the gate facing toward the east. And behold, the glory of the God of Israel was coming from the way of the east. And his voice was like the sound of many waters. Description of Jesus in Revelation. And the earth shone with his glory. And the visions were like the visions which I saw by the river Chebar. Remember when the limo came to the river Chebar? With all that glory, it's happening again, only it's returning to the city and the temple. And I fell on my face, and the glory of the Lord, or Yahweh, came into the house by the way of the
Gate.
facing toward the
East.
which gate?
The east gate.
No, it doesn't
No.
say.
Oh, I'm sorry.
One doesn't say. So they don't know which one. So what have they done?
They've left it
No,
open for
they
all.
All along the east. No bolts or bars. Because what are they waiting for?
The coming Messiah.
Coming Messiah, which is the Lord who's coming. So the gate facing the east, and the Spirit lifted me up and brought me into the inner court of the temple. And behold, the glory of the Lord filled the house. So exciting. Absolutely unbelievable. So when they're building up the city walls, and they're designated certain people to live certain places, who's living on the east side? Waiting for Yahweh. The priests and the Levites prepared to wait there for him. And so what is left out? The bolts and the bars. Because they're waiting for Yahweh to come. And they're waiting they're not going to lock Yahweh out, are they? No, they're not. They're waiting with excitement and anticipation. We're back in the land. Yahweh's supposed to come. He's going to come. Leave the doors open. And wait. And they wait. And they wait. And they wait. Several hundred years, don't they? I wonder if they kept the bolts and bars off the doors for several hundred years. You know, that's not a very good thing normally, because the enemy comes in and takes over. And if your city gates are locked up and not locked up, they just walk in just like they'll walk into your car if you don't lock the car doors, right? So here they are. Now do you see why? You patiently, very patiently, looked at chapter 3 of Nehemiah, right? And you started seeing what was there and what wasn't there. And that tells you they're waiting for something. And since Ezekiel just wrote a few years before this, they have it. They're waiting. Until then, Jesus comes. Right?
So
Go ahead.
So the whole thing about east being bad.
Oh, no. Going east.
But that's a big-
Somebody's coming from the east. It's good.
Right.
So they're waiting for Yahweh to come from the east
Gotcha.
and go into the city.
Okay.
And even the temple. Now we have the east gate for the city walls, right? The gates on the city. But even the temple's entrance is on the east side.
Okay.
Waiting. And so now it's funny because how do I describe this? You looked at it and you saw it was like the glory of God kind of coming toward the temple until it shone into the temple courts, right? It's almost a picture of sunlight or sunshine. Remember the sunrise that comes? Now, let me describe to you Israel. You have the Mount of Olives first. Mount of Olives first. And that's on the east side of Jerusalem. You go down to the Kidron Valley and go up to Mount Zion, which is Jerusalem. So it's almost picturing that sunlight coming over the Mount Zion, then down, and finally enter into the courts of the temple. Now, I know it sounds kind of weird, but in that day, that sunlight coming from the east was like to them a miracle. If it happened, that meant that God was allowing you to live just another day. So the sunlight coming over was the picture of God's glory coming over. Now, why do I say that? Well, if you get out your next page, 3 people describe the Messiah's coming in just that way, as sunlight or sunrise. And since we only have 2 minutes left, I'm not going to be able to take you into Luke. You'll get that next week. I want to show you Luke with all this information. We will go over this information again next week a little bit. Review it for those of you who said, say that again in your hearts. Look at Malachi 4:2. He's describing the Messiah coming, the messenger of the Lord who's going to come. But for you who fear my name, the Son of Righteousness will rise with healing in his wings, and you will skip about like calves from the stall. Now, I didn't give you the context, but the whole context is about the Messiah coming. Did you notice son? It's not S-O-N. It's S-U-N. The Son of Righteousness will come. It rises in the east and comes over. He's picturing that Messiah as coming across from the east to the city as a son. S-U-N.
Would that be considered a theophany?
You know what? I'm not sure because it doesn't have all the others. But remember, the sun, moon, and stars are given, according to Genesis 1, as signs. So when you see him coming, like the sun, yes. Okay, look what Zechariah in 178 says when he has John the Baptist in his arms. And he looks down at John the Baptist and he says this. Because of the tender mercy of our God, with which the sunrise from on high will visit us. So, sunrise is going to visit us to shine upon those who sit in darkness and the shadow of death, to guide our feet into the way of peace. And Peter also describes it in the same way, only occurring in the hearts of the people who will be there, who fear God. Look what Peter says about the second coming. So we have the prophetic word made more sure, to which you will do well to pay attention, as to a lamp shining in a dark place until the day what? Dawns. And the morning star, what is the morning star? Sun arises in your heart. So it's like the sun rising. The Messiah is coming from the east, and he's going to come to his temple again, says Ezekiel, and says Zechariah, and says 2 Peter. We need to be waiting with as much anticipation as the children of Israel in those walls when Nehemiah had them build those walls. Now, if you look, and one of the things you could do this week if you want to, if you look at them, notice where many of the people were rebuilding. Where were they designated to rebuild? So, go ahead. Let's pray. Father in heaven, thank you for a wonderful word. Help us, Lord, to be looking forward to Christ's return with as much anticipation as these Jews did. And help us to know and believe and live and think daily about your coming in Christ's precious name. Amen. Amen. Oh, yes. So, okay? You have any questions? And I hope that this worked. Love you guys.